so I ordered some more parts, and they came today. Ordered a flywheel lock and the pulley wrench. The reason I ordered that is I got my belts. So we're going to work on that this weekend. All right, so a little update. We've drained the coolant out, put it in the bin. Also, I have taken the fans out. So I'm going to test the fans. So we'll go through that. And when I did, these 3 bolts on the bottom were missing. So that's going to have to be added to the list of parts I need to buy. So when I put these back in, I can bolt it in properly. So that's what we've done so far. So we're going to go ahead and test the fans next. Alright, so there's one fan. But it's not moving very fast. I kind of hear it clicking. I think it's just hitting something. But that's not moving very fast. I don't know how fast they're supposed to move, but I have a feeling they're supposed to move faster than that. Let's go ahead and try this one. That one's moving about the same speed, but I would just think that they should be moving faster than that. So I'm going to have to check on that. We might have to get new fans. But they do work. So I don't know. All right. So we got the starter out. And it's pretty old and nasty. I am going to replace that because when I tried to start the car a couple of times, you could hear the motor for the starter running, but the solenoid not engaging the plunger to come out. You could hear it go ring and just spinning and not engaging the plunger part. So I think that needs to be replaced. But 2 19mm bolts on here. Tried regular wrenches. Didn't work too thick. The ratcheting part was too thick. Wouldn't get on the bolt. Tried a socket. Couldn't get the socket in because of the housing. So I went and bought just a set of regular wrenches that are much thinner. So if you look at the difference in thickness between those. Here, let me open this up. So you look at the difference in the thickness and how much wider in circumference that is than this. This couldn't get over that bolt and get in there. So I ended up using these. And then those suckers were on there. All my might, all my weight and everything trying to break those loose. Couldn't. So when that doesn't work, you get a bigger hammer. Always get a bigger hammer. 2 rules in life. If the duct tape isn't working, then you're not using enough duct tape. Then just get a bigger hammer. So then I put that on and I just bam, 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 and finally they broke loose. So, 20 minutes to get the starter out with the right tools. So it's an 11 millimeter wrench, but it can't be ratcheting, and that's just for this starter motor. So but yep, so the starter's out. We got a couple of the hoses off, got the coolant bled, got the auxiliary aux belt off, and that allowed us to get the next belt cover off. So that's off. Here's the water pump. So the next thing is going to be getting it set to top dead center, putting the flywheel lock on, and getting the crankshaft off. So that will be the next thing that we work on. Don't know if I'm going to do that today. It's getting a little warm in the shop. It's like 85 degrees outside, so it's not horrible in here yet, but it's getting a little toasty. So, but yep, you know, we could always just take the belts off too, but I'll crank this over, get this to top dead center, and put the flywheel lock on. So, awesome. Okay, so got the cam, top dead center, maybe a half a tooth off. I don't know. And then you're not going to be able to see that. But we are lined up right on our OT mark. So next is going to be putting the flywheel lock on. All right, so it was a pretty productive day. Timing belt off, balance shelf belt off. A couple of the pulleys are off. I tell you what, it sucked buying that tool, but to get those pulleys off, it made it so easy. It was worth every penny instead of trying to struggle. So I've got to go buy a pulley because I got to get that off in order to get the cover off. So that'll be tomorrow's purchase. But Will did a great job. Will really helped me out, didn't you, Will?
Yep.
So we had a good, productive day today. It was a lot of stuff going on today. A lot of stuff coming off, and we'll open it up tomorrow. But I think that was the water pump that came today. So we'll get back with it tomorrow. Okay, so as stated in the last clip, I got a box in the mail. I also went to Harbor Freight because I ended up having to grab some pulleys because I got to get that off and that off, and then so I need a pulleys to do that. So then in here, new thermostat, new belt guide nuts, new clip, gaskets, and the new water pump. So today's job is going to be getting that off, getting the water pump off, praying to the car gods that none of those bolts break on the water pump, and then trying to put it back together. So that's what we're going to try to do today. All right, well, pulleys worked. Actually didn't need a pulley to get this off. A couple of whacks just lightly with the hammer, that came loose, and I was just able to wiggle that off. But this one, so That was a 3-inch pulley. So it's the 3-jaw puller set from Harbor Freight. So it was a small one. And what I had to do was there's multiple lengths, and I had to just kind of keep trying. So what it ended up being was the longer of the short, if that makes sense. Yeah, this is short, this is short. So what I originally tried was I tried this down here, and it was too long. Made it too hard to get on. I tried this to here, and that was too short. So it just trial and error. So if you end up having to take your crankshaft pulley off, then it is the longer of the two shorts. So, pro tip. Okay, so we haven't gotten it out yet, but we loosened all the bolts on the water pump. This was one of my fears, was that these were going to be frozen in there, but they broke loose pretty easy. So once again, I think that this has been taken care of fairly well. I think the water pump was changed recently, because I mean, these things barely took anything to get them to break free. But I've seen enough videos where they're frozen or they snap off, and you got to try to drill them out, and it's all part of the block, and it just turns into a big, huge nightmare. I did, unfortunately, run into one thing. Come down here and show you. It was my front main seal. It's all oily, and look right there. That is not supposed to be like that. It should be perfectly round all the way. So unfortunately, I am going to have to change my front main seal. So I'll order one of those. But for the rest of today, I mean, the balance shaft seals look really good. The front one looks just as good as this one. So I didn't look at the cam, but I didn't notice any real oil or anything around that, so I'm okay with that for right now. But since I'm in here and I'm this far in, I might as well replace that front main seal, just because of that right there. That is not how that's supposed to be. And then all of a sudden it was this whole side. I've cleaned it up a little bit, but this was just caked with dirt and oil back here. So that's where we are. Next thing is we'll get the rest of the water pump loosened up, and we'll go from there. All right, water pump is out. So bolts came out pretty easy and everything. No real major problems or issues with it. And it looks pretty good in there. These are pretty rusty, but we'll clean that up. So there's the old water pump. There's the new one. The new one looks nicer. So we got to get the gasket cleaned off of that, and then we can put the new one on. All right, so we cleaned up the engine a little bit, got some of that oil and that just junk off of there as well. Since we're in here, I'm gonna have to order that front main seal and do that, and then we can go ahead and start putting it back together. I think I'm gonna order new hoses as well for the radiator, since they're pretty cheap, and I might as well just do that while I'm here. So I'll order those today, and those will hopefully be here sometime this week, and then we can start working on it again next weekend. So yeah, I think we're pretty good. So we'll see you next week.